welcome back to the Knit Song Podcast. Today is episode number 4, and I'm not starting my day, but starting the podcast with a healthy green smoothie made for me by my wonderful husband. So thank you, husband. It looks a little creepy and green for those of you that don't like greens, but it tastes like peaches and banana. So that's great. Even though there's a lot of kale, mostly peaches and banana is what you get. And I know this is risky, drinking something with greens in it, because I could end up doing this whole podcast with kale in my teeth, but I'm going to risk it because it's midwinter and I'm trying to stay healthy. So, welcome. This is not a smoothie podcast. This is a knitting podcast, and one where we talk about knitting and sewing and crochet and yarn dyeing, which I'm getting into, and all kinds of good crafty and creative types of arts. So, welcome back to the Knit Song Podcast. My name is Audrey, and I'm going to be hosting today. And I wanted to say thank you so much. We got more subscribers this week, and I got so many neat comments from people, and it was so much fun to respond to people that have introduced themselves on Ravelry or Instagram. So thank you so much for saying hi, and it's been just a pleasure to meet you. So thank you so much. Also, if you are tuning in for the first time, welcome. I'm excited to have you here today as well. So little business at the front. On Instagram, I knit a little song, and on Ravelry, I'm Katknitss. And I will put those in the description box below if you wanted to say hi or comment or introduce yourself or give me smoothie recommendations, anything. I would love to meet you. So thanks for that. So this was a good week, craft and art-wise for me. I continue to work on some projects that I'm going to show in WIPS. And I dyed some more yarn. So I'm excited to show that my FOs are mostly dyed yarn, but it was a really fast week, so I didn't get quite as much done as I had hoped, but I did make satisfying progress on things that felt really good. So let's start with works in progress. Let me show the one that has the most progress, and that would be for inside number 23's Andy Saddalong cal, my first cal that I'm participating in, and it's so much fun. I'm doing the sun shower cardigan, and I made some progress. Well, I cast on actually this week, so I didn't have anything other than a gauge swatch last week, and here is what I've got so far. I love it. So it's a paid for pattern, so I don't want to talk too much about the construction, but it's really affordable, and it's definitely a great one. You should buy it if you like this. And it was on Ravelry, and it's by Andy Saddalong, because it's the cal. Andy Satterland, excuse me. This is what I've got so far. It's a little bit of the back, working on the right front, and I will say about the construction that I think it's really clever. I've never done a pattern that approaches a sweater this way, and I'm really enjoying it. I feel like my sizing is good. I'm so happy that I was good and did my homework and did the gauge swatch, because I ended up knitting this in, I think it's 3 sizes off from what I normally would just assume I wear based on the dimensions. And that I think is because my gauge is a lot bigger, and now I know that because I took the time to do a gauge swatch. And now I'm knitting it in 3 sizes smaller than what I normally would, and I pinned it on old trusty here, and it looks like it's gonna fit perfect. So that's really exciting, and I can't wait to continue. And I know that this knit along goes until the end of March, so I've got time, and I'm blazing because it's on 5mm needles, and that's really fun to have that quick progress. I've been knitting with smaller, finer gauge yarns and needles lately, which is great, and I love it, but it's fun to have things grow so fast. So yes, the sun shower cardigan is brightening up my knitting life for sure. And I'm a big fan. So that was probably my biggest WIP because that was all this week. And so because I did mostly this week, there's not too much in the WIP category other than this. But I'm really a fan. I think I'm going to probably end up buying almost, there are so many patterns of hers that when I wanted to be part of this CAL, I was trying to pick which pattern to do, and it was really hard because she has so many good ones. So I'm thinking as soon as I get done with this one, I'm probably going to get another one because I really like her style and how she writes her directions and her construction, and it's really fun. So I am officially an Andy Satterlund fan. So that is WIP number 1. WIP number 2 is really exciting because this is the first project I've ever knit on, sorry, I keep looking everywhere because my camera's flashing at me, so if it looks like I'm looking everywhere, I apologize. I'll try to focus. But this is the first project that I've knit with yarn that I have dyed, and that is a super exciting creative milestone for me, and I'm just really excited about it. So I showed last week the first yarn that I dyed, and here is a little glimpse of a little mini skein that I did. It's so cute. And I am not at the point where I feel like being inspired by the people that dye yarn that I look up to and admire what they create and how they name their yarns, these awesome names. I don't feel that I have aspired yet or arrived at a place where I can name my yarns. I just don't feel like I'm not worthy to be part of the naming yarn club, but then that's kind of silly because you made it, you can call it whatever you want. So I'm thinking right now, this yarn reminds me so much of the part of The Little Mermaid when they're in the boat and Sebastian sings Kiss the Girl. And it reminds me, if you have The Little Mermaid, or if you just YouTube that song, all the colors in that part of the water and the trees around them are just exactly these colors. And so far, I think if I named this colorway and if I wanted to repeat it, I would name it something to do with that scene. I think there might already be a yarn that I've seen that's called Kiss the Girl, which is why I wouldn't call it that in my notebook, because I am keeping a notebook. This is a smaller mini skein, but I am keeping a notebook, and I do want to name things, and I see the purpose of it because once you write down a color combination, something that you want to try again, if I number them, that's no fun. So I get the process of naming things in a fun way, but I just don't feel like I'm worthy to do that yet. Maybe that's just deeper issues about myself, or just the respect that I have for the dyers that I have watched and been inspired by. So for whatever that's worth, this is still unnamed, but something is coming for a name for this guy. Anyway, all that to say, I balled up a big chunk of it, and I decided I'm having so much fun being part of a CAL that I joined another one. And I haven't officially joined it yet, but I think I'm going to join it today, because what I've done with this yarn so far is my first pair of Hermione's Everyday Socks, which I'm doing it on a little bit of a thicker gauge. It's sport weight. But I wanted some real chunky, cozy, almost slipper-like house socks that I could wear because it's so cold and we have hard surface floors. And I really just need some more bulk on my feet because they get so cold. So this, I think, is what I am going to do with this yarn. And since I was doing Hermione's Everyday Socks, and I was on the inside number 23 chatter thread for the Andy Sat Along, I was like, oh, this would count for the Harry Potter count, and so maybe I should enter. But I don't know if I can get these done by the end of January, so I'm debating. I really want to do it, but I don't know if I can finish. So this is a fun pattern. I like it, and I modified it to be 40 stitches instead of what is recommended, just to go with my weight of yarn. And I'm knitting this on 4 millimeters, so it's the thickest socks I've ever knit, and the gauge is pretty nice because it's pretty tense and tight so that it'll hold up well, I think. But we will see what happens with these guys as they grow. So those are really my only WIPs. And yes, they are totally in the same color scheme right now, and I'm not sure if I'm just in a blue phase or something like Picasso, but that's kind of what I've been working on. I do have one other WIP to show, and it doesn't have a lot of progress. So a couple episodes ago, I mentioned that I had started the granny stripe blanket because I was just inspired so much by what I was seeing on Instagram from everybody that was doing it. And a couple episodes ago, I mentioned, and I asked a question, how do you pick colors? And I have such a small stash of sock yarn, so I'm trying to make something pretty with that, but I need to buy more, so I need to come up with some type of plan. And I think it was a comment that I got by, I think it was Christine, and I wrote it down. Christine Larkin, thank you so much for your comment. And she recommended Addict 24's podcast and had, I guess that they had some type of similar suggestions for how to plan colors. And this afternoon, I think I'm going to look that up and watch what they have to say. I've never watched Addict 24 before, so I'm excited about that. And I'm going to see what they suggest because I don't like where I'm going so far. Here's what I've got. See, this is happy. This is all kind of moving in the same direction. And then the only other sock yarn I had is like bright red. And I'm not liking that transition too much. And it's hard for me to know whether I should rip that out or wait and see how that blends with whatever is next, because the context of it will look different once it's not the edge, once it's not so stark and shocking. So I'm not sure if I like the red. I like the red by itself, but I really think I need to rethink how I'm gonna do this because I feel like it's just too abrupt. I like the granny stripe blankets that have some gradient of ombre-ness to them where the blues transition into something that's, you know, maybe a dark green, and that dark green goes to, I don't know, something that's a pastel, and that pastel goes to a peach. And I can imagine all these things in my head, but when I go to buy the yarn for it, it's just hard to know what to purchase. So this is a WIP with a big question mark over it for me. But I definitely enjoy the process, and this afternoon I'd like to crochet on it a little bit more and check out Addict 24. So that is really my only other WIP. And one good thing about the red stripe is it makes it totally match the project bag that it's in, which is my cherry one that I sewed up a few weeks back. So that's really all I have for works in progress. I have a couple of FOs, not many, and they're tiny because they're just 2 skeins of yarn. Now, I really like this. Then I went on to dye my second and my third batch, and I did just one hank at a time. I wanted to try and do something tonal, and I guess, I don't know if it was the fact that the water moved once I put the dye in, but it kind of came out solid and not tonal, and I was trying to get a tonal version of a deeper fuchsia. What I came out with was hot pink, which on some days I enjoy, on other days it's a little too much for me. But this was the second thing that I dyed up. So there is a little bit of tonal value in it. There is a little bit of light and dark, just not as much as I was hoping to get. There's like a white spot, yikes. but it's definitely seasonal, because what I wanted was, oh, there you go. You can see some tone variances in there. But what I really wanted to do was knit a pair of Valentine's Day socks. Valentine's socks inspired, just because, as in last week's podcast, I was making heart garland and taking all the Christmas decorations down. It just felt so bare in here. And so I leapt right from Christmas into the Valentine's Day spirit, because I needed to have some type of decoration going. So that led me to dye this for some socks. Now, this is fun and very bright. Another reason I'm thinking socks was a good call for this, because I don't know if I have the right coloring or the gumption to wear a scarf or a hat made just this bright, even though I kind of like I have a love-hate relationship with this color. I love it, and then I realize, oh, it's too much, but I love the vibrance, and then I feel like it's too much. So I feel like socks would be the right call for this. But it's not alone. It has a best friend. It has a companion. I wanted to dye a complementary skein to this, so that I could have some thick stripes in these Valentine's socks that I'm thinking about knitting for myself. And I wanted to do something speckled, and I was thinking something kind of splotchy with a little bit of white left in there, and I really just kind of wanted to just play and experiment with color. And what I got, I like. It's not what I pictured, and I want to grow my speckling skills, and not speckling, but I would say variegation. I want to learn more about how to do that, and how to know how to get the coloring that you want and the placement of those colors that you want. And what I got was this, which is kind of fun, and it's hard to see the coloring there, but it's this petal pink with the dark fuchsia spots, and then just a hint of some bright green. So I think this is fun. I don't know what it's going to look like knit up, but I'm really anxious to play with it and try it out, and I'm just enjoying experimenting and playing with it. And I really like how they go together. Yay! So I think this will be fun to knit with. So these are my only two FOs. Sadly, my third one I don't have ready to show you. It's actually still in the dye pot. Sorry, I'm playing with my hair so much today because I didn't do it or spray it, and so it's just always constantly falling in my face. So I apologize for that. But the third hank of yarn that I dyed is actually in the dye pots, and I can't wait to show it. I'll have to show it next week because it's downstairs and all in the pot and wet. But that was the first skein that I did, and did a multi-step process, because I was made aware by some amazing podcasts that I'll be talking about in just a minute, that a lot of the things that I wanted to try with the yarn chemically are okay to try and mix and layer and reheat and all these things that I didn't know about. And so this, what I have in the dye pot right now is the first thing that is going to have multiple dyeings and multiple layers of color. So I'm really curious to see what that yields. I have no idea what it'll look like, because I'm still at the stage where I'm a little surprised by what it ends up being. But I will journal it, I will name it, I will catalog it, and I will keep experimenting because I love dyeing yarn. So far, I'm a huge fan. So those are my only FOs. I didn't really finish anything else this week. I started a lot of stuff. And the next thing I wanted to talk about today was sewing. I didn't really talk about sewing at all last episode. And it's late January, and I am really looking forward to some spring weather. And it probably won't come for a couple more months here, but I thought it would be really fun to sew a spring, summer type of dress. And so I wanted to use some of the vintage patterns that I showed on episode 1 and I cannot decide which one. So let me show you the two that I am tossing around sewing. Number one would be this dress with the short sleeve, and it would be the A. Sorry, can't see there. With the short sleeve. And it's a 1940s pattern. And I'm thinking something not so patterned, a little bit more light and floral for spring and summer. But I really like the shape of the dress, and I think that this would be fun. The second option, this is a little bit more obviously vintage than that one, but I'm loving C of this 1950s. Yeah, this 1950s vintage pattern that I have. And C is the one that I'm tossing around. Now, I don't know if it's that gathered without some type of petticoat underneath. I'm thinking that it would lay down more flat like this. You see the pink one. This looks... Hello! I am so sorry that cut out randomly. My phone was giving me problems and my camera was not liking me. So this is part two. We left off with sewing. And I was talking about how the C dress here, I think I would want to wear a little flatter with no petticoat or under like crinoline or anything underneath. But I would love to know for this week's question of the week, what do you think would be a better summer or spring dress? Something like this, the 50s one that I have, or something like this one. And also, which one of these would you think would be easier? The gathering scares me, although there might be some tricky elements that I'm just overlooking in this one. So I would love to know which one you think would be a good next step. This would be my first sewn dress ever, aside from the one that I half finished with my grandmother 15 years ago because her sewing machine broke. So I would love to know what you think. 40s, 50s, 40s, 50s. I don't know. It's up to you. And that's kind of all I have for sewing this week. Just more of a future planning sewing session. And I kind of wanted to move into just chatter, whatever podcasts I've been inspired by or watching, comments, random stuff. And so today, I can tell you this week, the two knitting podcasts that I have been watching, or yarn-related podcasts that I have been watching the most are the Yarn Dyer's Notebook, the Dyer's Notebook with Laura from Jinx Yarns. I had heard about it and then somehow forgotten, and I always wanted to watch her channel. Well, I finally watched, and I am binge watching. So I have just been trying to take notes on all of her amazing information. She shows, if you haven't seen and loved her podcast already, I highly, highly recommend it. It's amazing. And it's super educational. The way that she presents material is very well-timed and logical and helpful visuals that go with what she says. So I'm a huge fan, and I've been watching lots of episodes of that one. So that has probably been the one that I've been watching the most. Aside from that, I've also been catching up on a lot of Knitting Expat podcasts by Mina, and she is just amazing, and I always enjoy watching her. And I have not watched her full body of podcasts because when I found out about her podcast, she was way into it. So I'm kind of going back and catching my way up. And so I made a good dent in that this week and just enjoyed seeing her process and just all the good things that she does. So those were my two main inspirations this week, I would say. Last week, I asked a question about yarn festivals that are in the Western Hemisphere. That would be good too, but the western half of the United States, because that's kind of my travel radius at the moment. And Laura Rao, thank you so much for your comment, because she recommends Stitches West, which takes place near San Francisco. It's in Santa Clara, and I checked it out, so thank you. And it's this February. I think it's like at the end of this February. And it looks amazing. It's multiple days, classes, and I'm really kicking myself for not knowing about it somehow all the years that I lived like an hour away from that place. But thank you so much for putting it on my radar, because now I know it exists, and I'm gonna see what I can do to get there this year. If that's a slim chance, but I would love to. But I think I can maybe put it on the calendar for next year and plan for that. So that would be a really fun yarn festival to go to. And so thank you so much, Laura, for that, because like I said, I was an hour down the road and never knew about it. So thank you. I think that's kind of all I have for this week. I've been so excited, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, to get to know people as they introduce themselves. It's been just a real pleasure. So thank you so much for watching. And if you have any ideas or suggestions or comments of things that you would like to see more content of, or just kind of even an Ask Me Anything type of thread, we could totally do that in the comments under this video. I'm thinking as we gain more subscribers, I might eventually open up a Ravelry group, but we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I really hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and thanks so much for watching. I will see you next week.